This is a Massachusetts offer writing tutorial training. Tyler's new with our company and he asked for a refresher on writing offers. So here we are. Hopefully you find this recording helpful for you as you guys start writing offers and crushing it in real estate sales. All right, Tyler, let's start with this. Where did you get this form for this Massachusetts offer to purchase form? Where did you find it?
It's in Skyslope, but I found it through the forms section, the email they sent out.
Exactly. So two ways to get it. You know, our state broker sent it out to you when you first get onboarded. And also you can always log into our workplace by Facebook and go to the Massachusetts State group, click on the tab called Forms or Files, and you'll find all of the forms there, offer to purchase, exclusive right to sell, buyer agreements, all sorts of forms that you need. And it's all approved by the state and of course approved by eXp. All right, Tyler, let's start, right? So this is a contract to purchase real estate. It's the Massachusetts Association of Realtors approved form. It's usually a 2-page form, and that's just the beginning of it. All right, so buyer is, he made up this name, Alex, or maybe it's his real buyer, good for him. If there's a second buyer, you put that second buyer there, right? You're going to put in Tyler Paquette. I'd like you to put in comma eXp Realty. Okay. And here you're the buyer's agent. Owner. So to the right is owner of record, 21 Jeremy Street, Medford, Mass. The buyer is to purchase the real property described as Jeremy Street, Medford, Mass. 02115. Period. I'd like you to type in after that. Say as. Type in as listed on MLS number. And then grab the MLS number of the current active listing that you are working on right now. And you should, so as long as you know that's the current number, okay, copy it. Just verify that later, everybody. And the reason I say this, go ahead and put that note down. Yep, as listed MLS, okay, period. So when you submit the offer, what I always do is I print out the full MLS listing. Maybe I can lose the pictures because it's too much space. I don't need the pictures, but I do want the section where it shows the listing agent and it shows the buyer agency commission. Commissions can change. And I've had instances over the past 16 years where the day that I put the offer in, it showed 3% commission. And then by the time somewhere along the line, the commission changed because I was negotiating the deal. And the seller basically said to the seller's agent, hey, I'll accept a $10,000 less commission if you reduce the commission, your commission from 6% to 5% or 6% to 4%. And then my buyer agency commission went from 3% to 2%. And I'm expected to get 3%. But somewhere along the line, maybe they told me, maybe they didn't tell me during the negotiations, I only get paid 2%. That's why I always include a full copy of the MLS listing agreement, which shows the buyer agency commission at that point in time, which is basically whatever it is, 2.5%, 3%, 2%. So there's no misunderstanding. If they change it afterwards, it's coming out of their pocket, not my pocket. Does that make sense, everybody? Together with all buildings improvements thereon. The reason I say as listed on MLS is because on the listing agreement, again, it could say, you know, includes washer dryer, includes refrigerator. And then somewhere along the line, they might go in and be tricky and be sneaky about it and delete the washer dryer, delete the refrigerator, delete the dishwasher, delete the whatever it is that you thought your buyer was getting, and it's not there anymore. If you attach that full listing, you're going to have it as record on this day and time when you accepted the offer. This is what it showed, and here's print in time. And next up. So together with buildings and improvements introduced by Tyler Paquette as buyer's agent for eXp Realty. Some of this is redundant. Other trainers might differ from me, but this is how I do it. As buyer's agent, eXp Realty. Hit a period there and you can type in Jackie Nguyen as seller's agent for their agency if you wanted to. Otherwise, you don't have to do that. Just leave that here for now. Okay? Okay. All right, next one. The offer to purchase is $525,000. Does this not give you the decimal points, .00? Buyer's agent on behalf of
eXp Realty.
All right, there it is. So yes, thank you, Donna, for catching that. So I put Tyler Paquette eXp Realty up there and I forgot. Yes, thank you, Donna. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, comma, eXp Realty.
Realty.
All right, just eXp Realty. There you go. Thank you. Just keep going down. There's a purchase price of $1,000. Make sure to do 1,000.00. I know I'm being anal, but if I'm teaching this, I'm gonna do it right. .00.
Yep.
And then duration of offer is 1 p.m. off, expires on September 4th. Perfect. So purchase and sales agreement. Usually that takes about 10 business days afterwards. Depends on how fast your buyer and seller wants to move this property, how slow you want to delay it. So I usually say 10 business days or 2 weeks from now. Excuse me, not 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from 9/4 from the expiration of the offer. You can speed that up and do it as fast as the next day, 3 days from now. It all depends, but the standard that I've seen is about 10 business days to sign PNS. So just add another 9/4, so 14 days from then would be 9/18. Let's do it on 9/17, please. Because when you get to PNS now, you're not dealing with just you and the agent, you're dealing with attorneys and they may not work weekends. All right.
And to go back up on the duration of the offer, see how the box is so long? I can't make the box smaller. What happens if I need to check the AM?
So what I would do, because I play around with this a little bit, I would move that text box where you set 1 a.m. and
Yeah.
hover it over until,
There
add
you
some
go.
spaces in front of the one. That's the, I guess, the quick, easy fix.
If you're working with international buyers, sometimes that AM will help. So purchase and sale. No, that's the time. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
put in the time here, and then below is the date. All right, and then down here on 9/17/2021.
Tyler, that date and time is for when they sign it. If you want to note the date and time they sign. It's not a,
All right, sounds good. So closing, the next paragraph is number 4, the closing, right? The seller agrees to deliver good and sufficient deed, conveying good and clear recordable title, marketable title, blah, 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 at. So when you want to close, usually it's 30 to 45 days from your accepted offer date. 30 to 45 days after that is the standard. It can be faster, it can be longer. It's really what you and your buyer and the seller agree to. What I'd like to do as a quick tip for you is when you put an offer in, before you write the offer, you can call the listing agent and basically say to the listing agent, hey, my name is Tyler. My buyers love the house. In addition to the price, I'm sure is important to your seller. What other terms are important to your seller? Is a quick closing going to be more beneficial for them, or a delayed closing beneficial to them? 30 days of the week that are not good for them to sign paperwork, like the offer to purchase, like this purchase and sales, like the closing. I'm trying to accommodate the seller as much as possible within reason. When you have that conversation with the listing agent, first of all, you sound like a pro. That listing agent, if there are multiple offers, are going to say, you know what, that guy, Tyler, he knows what he's doing. He's courteous, he's helpful, he asks what's important to the seller. It's not just about his buyer, but he wants to get this deal closed with me. And I think I'm going to have an easier transaction with Tyler than with Tom Truong, who's an asshole about things.
Tyler?
Yeah.
Just another thing. And Tom, when you're calling the agent, you may want to also ask when they are looking at the offer so that you don't, you put down, I think you put down 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. for acceptance of the offer. So they might have right in the so you put down 1 o'clock.
In the disclosures.
Yeah, they might on MLS. It might say that they, offers due on Tuesday by 5 o'clock, and then they probably don't answer until the following day or that night. Also on the purchase and sale, I never put in the morning because it never gets done. I usually put 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night.
Let's go ahead and put in the closing that by 5 p.m. So let's do 45 days from now. Okay. So that would be, put that in. Again, you're having these conversations with your buyer, and then, I like to have a conversation with the seller, even though I'm just putting in an offer. I'm asking the seller, what is your most ideal closing date? I'm already getting them to think that they're going to be working and closing with me, not with the other 3 other offers.
I was looking for sponsors, actually.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Sponsors are getting kind of full.
Well, is that you and Ernesto? Someone's got their microphone on mute. Raleigh. Raleigh, I'm going to meet you, man. But wherever this property is, just find out what county they're in. So we can put in Suffolk County, Worcester County, whatever, right? Just find out where the property is.
Yep.
All right. Deposit will be held by, usually if you're the buyer's agent, and you're not double ending the deal with eXp Realty, then it's usually the listing office's name.
Okay.
So who's the listing office?
I don't remember.
ABC Real Estate Brokerage. Right. So this is the listing office's listing office information. Again, when you're having a conversation with the seller's agent, you can ask the seller's agent. I don't want to assume that your brokerage is holding escrow. Maybe the seller's attorney wants to hold escrow, right? Sometimes a title company wants to hold escrow. It's rare here in Massachusetts, but you just ask the question, so you don't have to do the paperwork twice.
Yep.
Moving. So contingencies. That's okay. So now we get to all the contingencies. Is there going to be a mortgage contingency? If there is, then you want to put it down here, right? So let's say, how much was this offer, Tyler? Five what? What did you make up?
525.
All right, so this offer is 525. And is your buyer putting down 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 20%? What are they putting down?
3.5.
Okay, so 525,000 times 6.5%, which is, less 3.5%. So the amount that they're going to finance is 506,625. But so that's one way to do it. You can write in the exact amount of the mortgage, which is 506,625. I don't do that.
Okay.
I basically put in 96.5% of purchase price.
You type in of purchase price?
Of purchase. Yep, of purchase price. Does that make sense? Why I do that?
Because if you negotiate it and something changes, then you gotta go back and do the math again.
That's right. Okay, if they put 20% down, then I say 80% of purchase price. I don't have to do the math again. So for finance, an amount of at prevailing rates, terms and conditions by at prevailing rates, terms and conditions by. All right. So you have to put in a date that you have to have a commitment by. So usually commitment is probably a week before the closing date. What was our closing date?
19th.
About a week before your closing. That could be a little bit later. That could be 10/15. According to RESPA, the closing packages have to be free and clear and no more changes at least 48 hours prior to closing. So it could be as late as 10/17, right?
Okay.
If you're representing the buyer, then you want the buyer to have as much time as possible to get their mortgage approved. If you're working for the seller, you want the buyer to find out as soon as possible whether their financing is going to fall apart or not. And if they fall apart, you have to put the property back on the market for sale to find a new buyer. 7 days to basically, it's about 7 to 5 days before the closing is what is standard. When I am negotiating on the seller's side, so you guys know, I always tighten up these timelines. I says, I want you to complete, I want you to get the commitment much earlier. I want you to get commitment in 3 weeks. What's taking so long? As soon as purchase and sales agreement is done, the appraiser should get out here and the appraisal should be done in 2 weeks, which means we have a week to sign P&S and 2 weeks to get the appraisal done. Everything else, all the underwriting can be done well in advance. I don't want your mortgage person to sit on this file, to have it in the back of his desk, not on the front of him, to work on the file until later on. A lot of times, sellers and buyers get so frustrated because the mortgage folks have plenty of time to work on the file. They just don't work on it because they know the closing isn't happening until 30 to 45 to 60 days later. Does that make sense?
What happens if they can't get an appraiser out there quick enough?
Well, then find another mortgage company or just press them on it. Mortgage companies are a dime a dozen. It depends on who I'm representing, right? If I'm representing the seller, I'm wearing a totally different hat than when I'm representing the buyer. All right, because there's different motives. All right, number two, B, inspections. Okay, so this basically says the buyer's going to do an inspection. If you want to waive it, then you just highlight this paragraph and you exit all the way through. But usually you don't, people don't waive their inspection. So then now you have to put in the date, right? So, and so when you do a home inspection, so usually that's going to happen about 5 to 7 days, needs to be completed about 5 to 7 days after the accepted offer. So what's your accepted offer date?
4th.
The 4th, okay? So the 4th, 5 days later is 9/9. And if you're representing, you might want to do 9/11, right? You want to give your buyer more time. Again, if I'm representing the seller, then I'm going to say, I want you to tighten that home inspection timeline up a little bit. Why do you take 7 days for it? If we have an accepted offer on the 4th, get Richie Wong out there, get another inspector out there and inspect it tomorrow. I want to find out as soon as possible whether we're moving forward or not, and not allow your buyer to tie up my seller's property for a long time. Because the longer it is tied up, the more stale my property goes and the less value I can grab for my seller in the long run. Does that make sense? Okay,
Yep.
so it's always a dance. It's always a dance to negotiate the best terms for your buyer or the seller based on who you're representing one more time. All right, next, number 7.
What's nothing was right here?
Well, that's supposed to be September 11th, 2021.
Ah, okay, I gotcha.
Okay.
Yep.
Representation, okay, so that's just self-explanatory. You guys can read that. Okay, additional terms. All right. So what other additional terms can you add? You could add in terms of the home inspection, since we just talked about it, you might say, you know, I'll have a home inspection, but I am not going to nickel and dime the seller with anything that's minor. So you can say home inspection, all home inspection items won't be renegotiated unless the value to repair or replace per item is X amount of dollars, right? In an aggressive seller's market like this, I might put in $2,500 per item, or $1,000 per item, or $500 per item, depending how much the buyer is going to nickel and dime the seller and try to renegotiate the purchase price at the end.
How would I write that?
So, well, assuming your buyer is okay with it, you're going to say, you know, home inspection items won't be renegotiated unless the cost to repair or replace, for any single item exceeds, and this is where you have to have the conversation with your buyer. Is it $500? Is it $1,000? Is it $2,500? Right? I mean, if I inspect and I see there's a scratch of paint on the wall and it costs $100 to repaint that wall, am I going to nickel and dime them on the paint job? The faucet in the sink is not working properly, is loose and is at the end of its age, and it only costs $150 for the faucet and $200 for a plumber to rip it out and replace it. It's $350. Am I going to nickel and dime the seller on that? Or am I going to say, you know what, that's less than $500, that's less than this amount that I have in there, my buyer's not going to nickel and dime you. And that puts buyers who need a home inspection but are not paying cash, puts them at a better place than a seller who's willing to accept an offer with an all cash offer and no contingencies. Then your buyers have no shot at winning the offer, right? So just put in exceeds and then put a dollar amount in. Let's put in $1,000 for now. I've gone as high as $15,000 per item, $50,000 because I'm a flipper, whatever it is. I just don't want major items because I'm going to rip the house apart anyhow. And I don't care about the small stuff. But if the foundation is falling down and there's massive termites or lead paint remediation or whatever it is, right? A roof that's going to cost me $40,000. I don't want to be on the hook for that. Other than that, I'm not going to nickel and dime them. Make sense?
Yeah.
The audience, if you're listening, you have questions, here's the time to open up your mic and give us additional feedback and to help Tyler if you like, or if you have questions, feel free to open it up. We're pretty much at the end of the offer here. Yep, go ahead.
Couple of things. One, in number 7, you have to write the word none.
Please, thank you, Donna.
Number 7, if none, write none. So you really have to write none in there.
Thank you very much for catching that.
And then I just wanted to make a comment on the closing date and
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So I don't think I would ever put in 5 o'clock for a closing. And if if I was the sellers, I would, and I got that, I would get someone's new. So
True. Put in 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, right?
yeah, or 11 a.m. or something, because it can always be changed, but
yeah. Reason for that, Donna, to tell Tyler and everyone else on this recording?
it has to get recorded. You want it to get recorded that day before the registry of deeds closes. Otherwise, your people, if they close too late on a Friday, they don't get into their house until Monday.
She is a pro. Thank you very much. You know, when I said 5, instinctively, I knew not to say that, but I kept moving anyhow because I want to go party this weekend. So you write none on number 7 and none on where else, Donna said?
Just number 7.
Just number 7. Gotcha. Okay. And then down below, so any other terms, you can write them here. Seller to leave behind the boat that's in the driveway. Seller to, if in the MLS listing, it says washer and dryer is negotiable, and you've negotiated that, then make sure that you write in washer and dryer to remain intact. If the seller says, hey, I'm going to fix the railing because it's loose, it's not showing up anywhere on the paperwork, this is where you want to write it down. Seller to fix the loose railing before closing. All right, that's where you handle that. And if you need more room, then you just basically say, see attached page 3, and then just open up a Microsoft Word file and type away and attach it as part of your offer. And then you're going to fill in your buyer's full name, whether it's 1 or 2, put it right there.
That will actually come out when you do the signature. So you can do that when you go in and send it to them for the signature.
Thank you for that. And then, so that's it for this page. When you're ready, you basically send it out, but we're not done yet. So you're going to send this out, you're going to negotiate, and let's assume that your seller rejects your offer. If your seller rejects your offer, sometimes, most of the time, they don't even send it back. They call you and say, sorry, Tyler, you didn't get it. Back in the REO days, I wanted to make sure that the bank, who's basically the seller, actually got the offer submitted to them because I didn't trust the seller's agent to submit it. So I requested that the seller's agent get the bank to sign this offer that says they rejected with the bank asset manager. So I didn't feel like, so my buyers didn't feel like your offer was never submitted. Sometimes your buyer, if they're educated, they might want to ask that if they think there's funny business going on. Usually it only happens when the seller accepts the offer. So when the seller accepts the offer, they check off A, they put in the time that they accepted it. Even if it's expired, they can still put that time in, and then they send it back to you. If they have accepted the offer past the time that your offer expired, you don't have to accept it, but you still can by acknowledging that, all right? Or they can reject the offer completely, which is B, or they can reject the offer as written and make a counter offer. So let's say they'll accept your offer, but they will only take $560,000, and they want you to close later because they have a house to sell, blah, blah, blah. This is where they will write in all those terms, and then they're going to put in their counter offer expires sometime after now, and then they're going to sign it. And then down below, keep going down, this is where your buyer accepts or counters the counter offer. Then if the offer is finally accepted, then the seller's agent will acknowledge the receipt of your earnest money. In this case, it's $1,000. The day that they accept it, they sign it, they get it back to you, and now you have a bona fide contract to purchase the home. Okay, so now a couple of tips. I would suggest that you it's a buyer's agent's responsibility to get the earnest money deposit, $1,000, into the seller's agent's hands. When you hand off the $1,000 to the seller's agent, and assuming it's accepted offer, you want them to fill out this paperwork with you there, so you can grab that paperwork and take it back with you. If you're doing it electronically, then make sure you track the paperwork electronically.
When you say which paperwork, this contract just filled out?
This piece of paper right here. Back in the old days, for us old timers like me and Donna and Richie, we would deliver the $1,000. We would get them to sign at the very bottom that they've accepted it. When they handed the check, they acknowledge the money. Now the check is in their hand. I have the accepted offer in my hand. I get that offer back to my buyer's attorney. I order home inspection, and off we go.
So one last question. When I submit this, is there any other forms that I have to get with my?
Yes. What other forms do we need, audience?
So I usually, with this, I will send an agency disclosure saying, hey, I represent this client. Most people will ask for them. If they don't, eventually they're going to ask for it. Second thing is, most likely I would check every listing that you're submitting an offer on. Usually there's a attachment there saying it's a lead paint disclosure at the very least, or maybe even a seller's disclosure. So filling out everything helps. That's actually helped me beat out some offers in the past, because the listing agent sees that you follow direction and you're on top of stuff. So check the document. It's on the top. When you look at the listing, it's a top right, a blinking paperclip. If you see it, and that means it has attached documents. So anything built before 1987 or even before 1988, we'll double check it, make sure they have a lead paint form. If not, I'll be proactive and I'll have the buyer fill one out and send along. Hey, by the way, you need a lead paint form. Remind them.
Yeah, so I found a property last week that I did a showing of, and it was built like 1970, and it didn't have a lead paint disclosure.
Well, not all listing agents are good listing agents.
So okay.
So you'll ask the listing agent after they accept the offer to send it over to you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Richie, sorry
Yep.
to say this, but it's not 1988, it's 1978.
1978, yes, you're right.
Okay, so,
Yes,
so
thank
there's
you. Thank you for
two
that.
things that Richie just talked about as a review. Massachusetts mandatory agency disclosure. You know what that is, right, Tyler?
I do, yep.
Make sure that is filled out. In this
Is
case,
that
you're
something-
the buyer's agent. That is something that technically by the letter of the law, we have to disclose on our first appointment with our buyers. You learn that in class, you learn that when you pass your real estate exam, right?
Yep.
And then the second thing is all of the attachments that I talked about. And if it's missing, you want to talk about the lead paint. You want to have a conversation with that selling agent saying, hey, this is built before 1978. Can you please get over the lead paint? I looked in the attachments and it is not there. Anything else, folks?
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for jumping on.